Hi, Jeff Price here. Welcome to Season 3 of Telling Tales. We have brand new stories for you. We'll take you from the Sahara Desert and time travel to a dystopian future. We'll meet up again with John Paul Doherty and Mary McGlade. Now, all the stories are free to download, and if you enjoy them, why not buy me a cup of coffee? The link is on the podcast front page. I hope you enjoy them. Welcome to the Case of the Frosted Lips, a story in the style of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and the detective Sherlock Holmes. It was a cold December morning when only those with good reason would venture out. The cobbled streets were icy, and even the horses pulling the milk carts were struggling to make their rounds. Outside the gates of Clements Chemical Works, the workers gathered, eager to get inside, but were unable to do so as the gates were locked. Although they could see a light in an upstairs window, no one came to open up to begin the morning's work. "Something's wrong. Mr. Clements hasn't come into work today," Mr. Braithwaite told the office manager, Mrs. Brown. "Where is Arthur? He has a key." "He's not here either. Shall I send the boy to his house? It's only a couple of streets away." "Good idea," Mrs. Brown replied. A few minutes later, a breathless Arthur Blenkinsop, the production manager, arrived. "Sorry, I was just leaving when the boy arrived. Stand aside, I'll open up." Arthur pushed open the gates, and everyone made their way through the cobbled yard. "The factory door is locked. This doesn't look right." George Braithwaite was beginning to wonder if going into the factory was a good idea. He gingerly made his way across the factory floor, followed by Mr. Blenkinsop up the narrow staircase to Mr. Clements' office. From below he could see the window that looked over the factory floor, and it appeared to be frosted over. Arthur gently opened the door. Inside he could see the lifeless frame of Mr. Clements slumped over the desk, his face contorted in anguish, his mouth open wide, and his lips and nose smothered in frost. Mrs. Brown screamed and cried, "Oh, God!" as she grabbed hold of Arthur's hand. Meanwhile, at 221B Baker Street, Sherlock Holmes pushed back the living room curtain and looked out over Baker Street. "I'm bored, Watson. It's been weeks since we had a challenging case. Everything has been so dull." Dr. John Watson knew this was the time when Holmes was at his most dangerous. A bored Holmes would quickly use this as an excuse to indulge in cocaine. He would become irritable and would quickly sink into a deep depression. "I'm sure something will turn up soon," Watson assured him, but there was little conviction in his voice. At that precise moment the door opened and Mrs. Hudson entered. "A telegram, Mr. Holmes?" "Thank you, Mrs. Hudson." Holmes's facial expression suddenly changed as he read the telegram. "What does it say, Holmes?" "A corpse in a warm room with frosted lips. Stop. Clements Factory, Cheapside. Stop. Come at once. Stop. Lestrade." Holmes immediately dug into the pile of books beside his chair and pulled out the London Dictionary and flicked through the pages. "Here it is, Watson. Clements Chemical Works, manufacturers of industrial inks. Grab your coat, Watson. The game's afoot." It was only 20 minutes later when the hackney cab arrived at the factory gates. "Morning, Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson. You have a right puzzle here," Inspector Lestrade told them as he made their way into the factory. "The body was found just an hour ago, but it looks like he's been dead for quite some time. The victim, Mr. Clements, is the factory owner." Dr. Watson was intrigued as he watched Holmes. A light he'd not seen for several weeks now shone in his face, and he had the expression of an excited child as he quickly climbed the narrow staircase up to the office on the mezzanine that overlooked the factory floor. "Observe, Watson. Holmes was pointing at a small cast-iron stove that sat at the corner of the office. It's still warm, and this small office is a comfortable temperature. But the little window that overlooks the factory floor is frosted over. Most interesting. Holmes opened the small plate on the front of the stove and retrieved a scrap of paper. It retains only a little bit of text, but it might be useful. Holmes continued his forensic search of the room. In one corner was a small table with a large plant pot. The flower looked as though it hadn't been watered in a long time. On the desk were scattered papers and a diagram of what appeared to be a large sphere bound in riveted steel. Ah! Holmes seemed to almost explode in excitement. We have our means. We do not yet have our motive. Lestrade, what do you think? Well, Mr. Holmes, I'm not sure what to think. It's indeed a rum affair. I've spoken to Mrs. Brown, the office manager, assured me the business was flourishing, and they had a healthy order book. Indeed, they were discussing expansion of the production with a new range of chemicals. Arthur Blenkinsop, the production manager, had been working with Mr. Clements on the development of some new machinery. Then a word with Mr. Blenkinsop should shed more light on the matter. Holmes' eyes seemed to dart across the room, absorbing every detail. A constable was sent to get Mr. Blenkinsop, who quickly appeared. How can I help, sir? Are you aware of anyone with a grudge against your employer? Holmes inquired. My partner, sir. I am a minority shareholder in the business. I am unaware of anyone who had a bad word to say about Mr. Clements. We have a loyal workforce here who are paid well. Our suppliers' invoices are settled on time. And other than work, Mr. Clements had little time for anything else but the business. He's developing a new product, I believe. Yeah, I designed a new containment system for the liquefaction of nitrogen. It's cheaper to make and a lot safer than the systems presently used. Yes, this is exciting. I have read the paper from the Polish physicists Wojewski and Oleski, who were the first to liquefy nitrogen by compressing and refrigerating gas. Remarkable. It's a brave new century we are about to enter, and who knows what other surprises it will bring. Indeed, sir, that is all I have work to do. The business must carry on despite this terrible tragedy. One last question. What will happen with the business? Who inherits his share? Oh, I don't know. His wife, I believe, is in a nursing home, and they have no children. Mr. Clements himself was a foundling and has no family that I am aware of. Thank you, Mr. Blenkinsop. That's been most helpful. You can go about your business now. Holmes turned and looked at me. The body, Watson. What can you tell us? Well, it's the body of an overweight man in his late 50s. His hands are stained with ink. He has a ruddy complexion, probably due to high blood pressure. No signs of violence that I can detect, but after the coroner has had his way with the corpse, we will know better. But as to the frost on his lips and nose, I can offer no explanation. Excellent, Watson. A succinct summary. I think, Lestrade, it's time for your men to remove the body. Now we'll now have a look around the rest of the factory. Of course, Mr. Holmes. The factory floor was a huge collection of large vats. A series of belts were powered by a large steam engine that sat in the corner of the factory floor. The noise was deafening, and the toxic atmosphere caught in your throat. It was unsurprising that many of the factory workers were coughing, and most had damp cloths bound across their faces. Holmes pointed to a large door at the back of the factory. What lies beyond that? He inquired. Lestrade said, It's a laboratory. I think this is where Mr. Blenkinsop works. He could tell from the look on Holmes' face he had lost interest in the factory, and he was suddenly announced that he had errands to see to and would be in touch. And with that, he strode out of the factory and into the grey fog of a London morning. It was 3 hours later when Holmes eventually returned to Baker Street, a smug and self-satisfied expression on his face. I have it, Watson. Indeed, Holmes? And exactly what do you have? I've asked Lestrade to meet us at the factory. It was an hour later when they assembled in Mr. Clements' office. Please ask Mrs. Brown and Mr. Blenkinsop to join us. Holmes wanted an audience as he prepared for the grand reveal which both Watson and Lestrade knew was coming. Minutes later, everyone was assembled and Holmes began. Mrs. Brown, I noticed that the door had recently been altered to include a new threshold and a heavy curtain. Whose idea was that? I'm not sure. Mr. Clements had been complaining he was cold in the office, and naturally keeping the smells out was also a priority. But I think it was Mr. Blenkinsop who arranged the alterations. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Mr. Blenkinsop, what were the expansion plans for the new containment system? We're looking for new premises to begin building them, but nothing has been determined yet. And who holds the patent for this new system? Oh, Mr. Clements was in the process of organising that. Lestrade, look behind the flower pot and tell me what you see. Lestrade crossed the room and moved the plant pot to one side. Oh, a small hole in the wall was hidden behind it. This is how the murder of Mr. Clements was achieved. Nitrogen gas was pumped into the room. As it's heavier than air, it slowly filled up the room, rising up from the floor, and when it did so, it enveloped Mr. Clements, and he would slowly drown in the gas as he struggled to breathe. Once the gas had completed its terrible task, the pipe carrying the gas was removed. Lestrade, this morning I inquired with the Patent Office if an application had been submitted, and they told me an initial application had been made, but not been finalised, as Mr. Clements had requested some changes. Did you know about the changes, Mr. Blenkinsop? No, I'm not aware of any changes. So you did not know that the changes involved the patent being in the name of the separate company, that your name is not on the patent? Mr. Blenkinsop's head dropped slightly as Holmes continued. Mr. Blenkinsop, you discovered that you were being sidelined, and your invention would in fact solely belong to Mr. Clements, which means you are the only one with the means, the motive, and the opportunity to commit such a terrible crime. At that moment, Mr. Blenkinsop pushed Mrs. Brown to one side and rushed towards the door, only to find a constable waiting outside. Later, back in Baker Street, Watson turned to Holmes and asked, So, how did you know about the patent? The paper in the small stove contained a distinctive watermark. Enough information made me suspect, and a visit to the patent office confirmed my suspicions and gave me the final piece of the puzzle. As to why Mr. Clements wanted to freeze out his partner, I do not know. What about the frosted window and Mr. Clements' lips? He asked. This is what alerted me to the nitrogen gas. In a liquid form, it's very cold, and when released, it retains its lower temperature for some time. As Mr. Clements gasped for air, drawing in the nitrogen, it crystallized on his lips. A clever plan, Watson. Could have easily put the death down to natural causes, but Lestrade's instincts and the application of a little knowledge caught Mr. Blenkinsop out. Holmes sat down in his armchair, opened his tobacco pouch, filled his well-worn briar pipe. As he gently inhaled the acrid smoke, he turned to me and smiled. A good day's work, Watson, a good day. If you enjoyed this episode, then please support my podcast by buying me a coffee. It's £2 a cup. Click the heart logo in the top corner of the website page underneath. If you're another podcast provider, then check out buymeacoffee.com and search for Jeff Price N3. Thank you. You can contact Telling Tales direct by emailing tellingtalesjeffprice@gmail.com. Until the next time, goodbye.